Hello and happy Friday. Welcome to the Digital Boss Boardroom, where we share valuable and actionable tips specifically curated for small business owners to help you most effectively market your business online while creating a little bit of joy in this crazy entrepreneurial journey that we're all on. I'm your host, Bobbi Baehne, and this episode is brought to you by the digital marketing experts at Think Big, Go Local. If you guys want to connect with us, please be sure to check out the show notes or the description. Everything you need to get in touch with us will be right there. We would love to connect with you on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, all the places. And don't be afraid to get involved in this conversation. What makes these streams fun is everybody's input, their questions. And then, of course, be sure to drop anything you want to contribute in the comments, and then like and share this video and subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any of our awesome upcoming episodes. All right, so today we're going to be talking about creating content that converts. And by converting, I'm talking about turning those followers into super fans, turning potential clients into actual customers, getting people to actually click that link and buy that thing. But so today, and joining me in this conversation is going to be Jessica Koehn. Go ahead and bring her on here, Kent. There we go. Hey, Jess.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, so if anyone didn't see our very first episode of the Digital Boss Boardroom, Jessica was our first guest. She is now the social media manager at a large software company called Connectwise. And you know what, Jess, why don't you do a little intro of yourself? Because I know there'll be people watching today that didn't watch our first episode.
Sure. My name is Jessica Koehn. I am a former teacher converted into marketer. So I went into teaching. I taught high school Spanish for about 11 years. Once my kids came around, it sort of threw a loop into all my plans, and I stayed home for a bit. And then I found an awesome opportunity at this company called Connectwise, managing their social media. I was well prepared as I had worked for Think Big, Go Local in the past. So I'm learning something new every day, and I'm excited to build on what I learned from you.
She learned a little bit from me and is an absolute rock star in her space now. Where did you just come back from, by the way? Because I think that that whole little experience talks a lot about what you're contributing to Connectwise.
Yeah. Well, I had about a week and a half stint in Mexico. The first was planned to get some time away from the kids with my husband. But after I booked that trip a few weeks later, I was told I was being awarded a trip to Cabo for my contributions to our team in 2023. So as a former teacher, when we get appreciated, it's here's a couple donuts and thank you so much for all you do. And students write you nice little thank you notes, which I have every one I've ever received. But it really is pretty impactful to be given something as big as a trip to Cabo with my husband and to spend with my colleagues and other top performers. It was a pretty incredible experience. Not so much the whales I got to watch jumping from my room,
Yeah, luxurious vacation, by the way. She had the best babysitter ever for those kids, because if you don't know yet, and I don't see the resemblance, but Jessica's my daughter. For anybody that didn't watch before and is maybe wondering. So really fun to have somebody in the family now that we can share our experiences in social media. So one other thing I just wanted to bring up today, it is International Women's Day. So to all the ladies out there, especially you hardworking entrepreneurs and business owners, but all women of all ages, happy International Women's Day.
Yes, happy International Women's Day. We streamed earlier today highlighting the women of Connectwise and how important it is for women to feel empowered and to get their voices out there. And so this is my message to you. Don't hold back. Make sure that you're sharing your thoughts. Make sure you're encouraging other women to get involved in this business journey with you, and encourage our youth too, because I think that's a huge piece.
Oh, I love that. You know what? That is something I'm super passionate about. I teach as well. I am not a teacher like Jessica is. I am a marketer who they beg to teach marketing classes at our local colleges. But it is so powerful. And to feel like you're a piece of another young woman looking to start her career and looking to you for advice, mentorship, it's probably the thing I get most excited. That I'm not a very emotional person, but I will tell you, when I do things with my students and I feel like I've really made a difference, I can't help myself but get all teary. And when you read the letters that your former students have written to you, I get all teary because of you and then because of them. Just the whole, it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. And I know that
It certainly is.
I know so many women are doing it and supporting other women and empowering them and bringing them up with them and not being competitive and finding ways to partner and not compete. And so kudos to all of you. I'm glad we have a day to celebrate that.
That's
How
right. And
did
I
your
think that's a really valuable piece to what you're doing here in this podcast. This is really aiming to empower others to make strides in their business too. So kudos right back to you for what you're contributing to this industry and all women.
Thanks, Jess. How'd your live stream go? How many women did you have on there? I know I got to see your little intro video, which was really good. How did the whole experience go today?
It was great. It was my first time really facilitating a conversation. There was 5 of us on the stream, and I think it went really well. It was well received, and we had what the part I love the most is it wasn't all women watching. We had a lot of men engaging, and I think that's an important thing too to consider on this day and as part of Women's History Month. That it's not just women who can empower other women, like men too. It's your responsibility also for yourself, for your own mom, for your own daughters, to make sure that all women feel empowered and they can make strides in business too.
I mean, I know Kent's listening. He may be doing something else. Kent, chime in here. I know you've got a wife, you've got daughters. What are you doing for International Women's Day? We'll see if he's paying attention. He's not. All right, maybe he'll hear that and he'll jump in. Okay, so we have kind of cultivated 6 different types of content pieces that we want to talk about today. Like I mentioned before, conversion to me doesn't always mean somebody buys that thing. It's really, for me, a transformation. How do you take people from one place to the next place using the type of content that you're sharing, right? So I will kick this off. I have a few things I wanted to talk about, and I know Jessica's got some really great examples to share with us too. And this is really, I think that this has changed over time. Every year I do my best to really study what are the trends, what are bigger businesses and marketers saying are really moving the needle for them. And one of my number ones is storytelling. I think it has been for a long time. I think even like 5 or so years ago, businesses were trying to really wrap their head around what does that mean. But especially like on a day like today, which is why I loved that you were able to talk about doing a live stream with other women today, because that's the story, right? Like the story can mean what's important in the culture in our business and how do we portray that to the world. The story could be, how have we impacted clients? What's a successful experience a client has had working with us where they've got some direct results to share? That's a story. Even just sharing some like behind the scenes sorts of things that are happening, things that you can share about your staff, what motivates them, what brought them into your business, what unique value are they offering either to your organization or to your specific clients. And even things like what got you started, like why do you do what you do? Sit down someday, find a medium, whether it's a live stream or a blog, to actually share what gets you out of bed in the morning and why you do what you do. I've done that a couple times. Makes me feel very vulnerable. But at the same time, it's so impactful. Oh, look, Kent jumped on. I am doing what every good man should do on this day. Say yes, ma'am, and do what I can to make your day better. So that's smart, Kent. Just smart. Just smart. So anyways, find ways to tell stories within your content. First of all, it's more memorable than a graphic or just a post that you wrote that seems maybe a little bit fluffy and doesn't have a genuine storyline to it. Stories make people feel connected to you. It's also just so memorable that they may remember that story because it flows in a way that they're a little bit more used to watching movies or reading books, right? So I think storytelling is huge. And that's my first one. Any thoughts on that, Jess, or your first one?
Yeah, storytelling is huge. I think when you, so we're talking about content that converts. So obviously we're trying to get people somewhere. We want to drive people to some place. But by simply saying, oh, check out my website, or here's my trial, or just simply stating what you do, that doesn't draw in any attention. That doesn't make people want to work with you. So I know that we've talked about these 4 words countless times, but aim to educate, inspire, entertain, be relatable. And you can only do that through storytelling. So no matter what your goal is, you need to start by creating that story, encouraging people to get involved, because otherwise, why would they pause in the middle of their day while they're trying to do something else to read what you have out there? So the more interesting you can be, the more relatable you can make your story, the more likely people are to click through, whether it's to your website or even just to your own personal LinkedIn profile to learn more about you and who you are and what's going on.
You know what this is making me think about? You had recently told me how you guys were shifting up some strategies for your live streaming, and you had, the day we were talking, you had someone on a farm, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's a story, right? That's a story about who he is. Do you want to share that one? Because I thought, and it was so well received. People loved it.
Yeah. So it's funny. I actually just presented to my marketing team on this exact concept. We were really trying to transition a little bit from being so solution focused and so just focused essentially on self promotion. And so I was trying to find a way to make this work. And we were raised on a horse farm. We spend a lot of our time on my grandpa's property. We're sort of outdoor people. And so when I started talking to my colleagues about that, it was interesting how many people actually have livestock at their homes or live on a lot of land. We have a lot of colleagues in the Iowa area. So I was like, let's do field reports. Like, that's kind of fun. It's like a news anchor type concept, but let's do them outside. Let's actually do them in fields instead of reporting from, each of these events. So I was able to tag in one of my favorite colleagues, a mentor, Vicki Bruns. I should shout her out because she's just incredible and has really mentored me throughout my journey transitioning to this career. But she live streams all the time with her donkey and her horses. And so then we've just been tagging in other people. And one of them is a huge industry leader. So we acquired his company called HTG Peer Groups. He was a farmer and he's like a serial entrepreneur. He has a couple of companies. He still runs a farm with his family, but he jumped on from his combine and taught all of us exactly what he's doing, but then, able to tie that back. He's creating the story of where in his business journey on his farm are they at? So we have this, it's called the modes assessment. And so small businesses take this assessment to figure out where they are in their journey, what mode they're in. Are they building value? Are they trying to become a huge enterprise company? Or are they simply, just kind of going with the flow, not really looking for growth, looking for more maintenance? So he tied it back to where he is on that journey and how all small businesses, not just technology businesses, not just our large company, but how everyone can learn from that assessment and tie it into their business value and growth.
I love that. And someone threw a comment up here and said horses, exclamation point, which says to me, Maureen is watching. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing. All right. So let's jump into one of your tips because we're burning time here like crazy. It always goes so fast.
It does go fast. I have a few. And so we talked about this before. One of our main platforms is LinkedIn, but we are active on all the other social platforms. Essentially. I think there are a few key pieces. Storytelling is really, I'm glad you started with that because that's really the forefront of everything. You have to create a good story. Otherwise, you're just putting up content that may not have any value or drive any value for your business. But a couple of the most effective pieces of content across all platforms are video content. So I highly encourage live streams. I think the authenticity of a live event is something that's really appealing to people. Because we're all human. And so the more time you spend preparing and writing a speech and all of those things, that's great. That's really, it's professional. That really looks good for your image. But also there's that piece where other people want to feel related to you. They want to understand that they're not in it alone. So I think live streams are really effective in that way because you can make mistakes. You can stutter over your words. You can, whatever it may be. It's authentic and transparency is key, I think.
It's real. I mean, people are always saying to me, well, I'm uncomfortable. I'm like, then start out telling people you're uncomfortable. Immediately, people are going to be like, oh my God, girl, I'd be uncomfortable too. And now you've actually made a connection and then you get it out of your system, you move forward and people respect the fact that you're showing up, right? That you are vulnerable enough to be like, I may not be the best speaker. I hate microphones. I hate attention, but here I am. I think, what makes me think of, Jason Kelsey, I just love their podcast. It's so great. New Heights, by the way, shout out. His wife hates the spotlight. And what really makes me laugh is when she gets on there, it's like the messy mom hair bun, sweatpants, like when she does show up, she's honest about hating it, but she shows up as authentically who she is. And it makes me absolutely adore her. Right. And it just adds value in such a real way that it's not overproduced, just kind of popped into my head.
Yeah. In the stream that we did earlier today, one of the women on said, change and comfort they cannot exist without each other. So if you want to grow, if you want to see change in your business, you really have to step outside that comfort zone. And so sometimes that means like a financial aspect. You have to shell out more money than you thought you wanted to, but other times that means putting yourself in front of the camera, even though it's not something you love to do. So again, highly recommend live streams. But even if you don't prefer a live stream because you'd like a little more prep time, pre-recorded video, short form video, anything to get yourself in front of the camera. And again, tell an interesting story. I think that's one of the most valuable pieces of content you can put out.
Awesome. So Kent actually threw another thing in here. I thought I could display. Oh, there we go. Storytelling is an art. How do we start the story to get, I think he meant scrollers, not strollers. Because I don't have any advice for strollers, Kent, but how do we start?
Probably do. I have 4 kids.
Jesse does. How do we start the story to get the strollers to stop and catch the rest of the story? I'm so glad that he asked this one because this leads into what I wanted to share. So I wanted to talk briefly about design. Because this is something we've all seen for a long time. First and foremost, you want the design. Think about first impressions. Is it actually going to stop somebody in the feed? So you need it to be interesting enough that it grabs somebody's attention, right? And that could be a variety of things, but you should know your own audience and what's going to kind of capture them. Well, part of that, which kind of goes to what Kent was asking, is getting a hook in there right from the very beginning when you throw that image out. So I made a little list of some really great hooks that you could overlay on a story, make as your first line in a piece of content. They're awesome as an overlay on a reel or a TikTok video. So things like, this is your sign to whatever. And now people want to know what that's about. Or am I the only one who feels like whatever? And then you go into whatever you're going to talk about. And that hook makes people, what is she going to say? How can I contribute to that? If I had to start over, whether it's start my business over, start the day over, start the year over, the first thing I would do is then it leads into your story. So these little hooks, opinion things, don't hate me, but and now I'm going to tell you how I'm feeling about something, or why is no one else talking about this thing, right? So those are just some examples of hooks that you can put in the very first segment of your story that make people, they realize you're about to share value, but actually share it in a way that they already can perceive as not confrontational, conversational, so that they're much more willing to jump in. And now you have brought them in, you're going to tell your story. And because you've really captivated them, hopefully they're going to tell theirs as well. Because while you need to have a hook in your content, you also need to have a call to action, right? So you get them in, you get them to listen, you share something valuable, intriguing, something that garners engagement, and then you tell your audience what you want to do next. So I hope that kind of that was a great lead in, Kent, into that one for me. But I also want to say, when it comes to that call to action, very often we see click here for this, sign up here for that. Dump those, you guys. Get a little bit more creative, ready to get smart? Here you go. Or things like, find out why this has made such a difference in the lives of whoever, and make that call to action a little kind of hook of its own, right? Just a little different than what we're used to seeing. Cause I don't know about you, but I'm done with click here. Done.
Yeah, I think so too. And the other piece, that works really well, instead of having to even, I guess, use a phrase as a call to action, if you use the link card and upload your own visual to the link card that you post to any platform, so I guess more specifically to Facebook or LinkedIn, then that visual itself is clickable right to your CTA. So you can drive people there just by simply the title of whatever link you're sharing. You can edit the title name. And I think that helps drive business too, instead of having people search for a link to click.
Absolutely. So you're talking about the whole preview popping up. Just to make it clear, you're doing a lot of acronyms, girl, and some people are probably like, "What did she just say?"
Yeah, yeah, no, the link card. So when
Yeah.
you're scrolling through LinkedIn, you see a visual, but underneath it will say a title, and that links directly
Right.
to whatever the CTA is for there.
Right, right. So you had a tip that I really want you to share because if you didn't watch our very first episode, you may have missed this one. I was excited because I didn't know about it and I love learning new things. But I had done, so Jessica schooled me on this. I was doing a carousel for an Instagram post and I popped it onto my other platforms, even though they weren't carousels in the same way. And Jessica reached out to me and said, "Oh, mom, you're doing that wrong." So how do you create carousel content? Because carousel content is really engaging because every time someone swipes through that image to the next one, which by the way, if you do it well, those images are telling a story. That's the whole point of doing the
Mhm.
carousel. Every swipe is a piece of engagement. So having 3 to 7 carousel images could get you a lot of engagement on a piece of content. So how do you structure that in LinkedIn?
Yeah, so you can do it on LinkedIn and also on Facebook, though the way you do it is a little bit different. The way on Facebook you can do these posts, and I believe you have to use an external social media management platform to do this, but you can post a carousel, so essentially scrolling images, but each of them are linked to a CTA. And so it can always be a link, it can be the same link throughout every one of the cards that you're using in the carousel, or it can be a different link for each page. um, on LinkedIn, you upload a PDF document. So you can just use whatever graphic design platform you use, shape it to, the 1200 by 1200 or 1080 by 1080 graphics, so the square graphics, and then download that as a whole PDF file. So all of the visuals, and you upload that to LinkedIn so that it becomes scrollable. So instead of each of those visuals showing in boxes, sort of like as a collage type thing, you have to scroll through them. And the benefit of doing that is that each time someone clicks to scroll, you're getting engagement, which then the algorithm prioritizes. So again, your content is just constantly being fed to a new audience because of the amount of engagement on it. And I also think, as you said, it gives you that opportunity to tell a story. So you got to pique the interest on that first one. Sometimes like a step by step is a really good way to use those. So step one, do this. Next step here. And so we found a lot of success in that from a brand awareness perspective. The one thing I dislike a little bit about it is then those images are no longer clickable to a link. So you do have to navigate within the post for a link to get wherever you're trying to drive your audience to. So that's when the copy becomes really important as well. And however you're encouraging people to click that link, it becomes a little bit more important.
That's awesome. And by the way, on Facebook, organically, you can't do carousel. You used to be able to, but organically, you can't do those anymore. But you can if you do paid ads. And it is a fantastic ad format. I work with a live music venue, and we do those where every carousel is an upcoming show with a separate link. So you can feature products, you can feature services, and people can click a independent link to wherever it is they want to go. So
I wish
and
Facebook was easier to contact because I can still post those carousels using the platform I use to post.
what platform
Um,
are you using to post?
so we're currently using Brandwatch, and I
Okay.
am still able to post individual links as a scrolling carousel, but I can't figure out how to do it within the Facebook platform itself.
Yeah.
So, but they're not always the easiest to contact, are they?
If anyone's interested in that, I'll do more research. So drop a comment. Let me know if that's something you're interested in. We'll figure out how we'll make sure you know how to do it. We'll make sure to get in touch with you. Okay, so we talked about storytelling, we talked about design, we talked about the PDFs. Oh my gosh, and you talked about live streams. I was going to mention video. It's not, we already kind of mentioned it. Listen, if you haven't figured out at this point that if you're not on TikTok doing reels, doing that short form vertical video, engaging in live streaming, you're missing out on the number one consumed piece of social media content globally is video. So if you really want to get out in front of people, you got to get comfortable doing video, make it happen. I'm not going to elaborate on that because we've only got 5 minutes left. And Jessica is really excited about something that happened yesterday, which is going to, no question, end up being a fantastic conversion tool for them. So tell us a little bit about what you decided to launch yesterday and how it's going.
Yeah, I really am very excited. It's that immediate gratification piece, where you like feel accomplished seconds after you make something happen. So I was on a little bit of a high yesterday afternoon, but we're trying to get some of our blogs in front of our audience, and driving people to those has not been the easiest task. Like you said, video is really the most prioritized piece of content, both by audience choice and by algorithm preference. So getting a blog out there, they're not always the most appealing. And plus, some people just don't want to spend those. It may only take 3 to 5 minutes, but they don't want to spend that time reading. So we've been trying to figure out ways to get them to our audience without doing a boring, generic, this is a blog social post. So I created a LinkedIn newsletter. I was really excited because in the first 4 minutes, I had 5 subscribers. I was like, cool, we have 5 subscribers. Well, I refreshed my page and we had 250, and I refreshed again. And we were just growing by 50 every minute. Woke up this morning to 10,000 followers. There's
Woo!
10,000 subscribers to our newsletter. So I don't have a ton more context to using newsletters, but I can't wait to share updates once we progress a little bit further through the newsletter journey. I'm sharing them monthly and just really hoping this drives people to the blogs that aren't getting as much attention as they deserve.
Maureen says, I think it's Maureen says, congrats. That's awesome. And it was cute because she was texting me going, oh my gosh, we are just sitting here hitting refresh because it's so exciting. And then this morning to have it grow that much. Now, granted, you're a big company. You have
We have a big
you
audience.
have a large
Mhm.
audience, but how do you guys plan on using this newsletter for conversion? Because I think this is one of those things that LinkedIn rolled out during the pandemic. They rolled out events, they rolled out newsletters. Like they really started to give us some tools to increase usage of that platform and help us connect at a time that we were struggling to connect. Bye, Maureen. She said, gotta go. Great info. Check back later. How do you plan on using the newsletter going forward to turn those people who are going to be viewing into really loyal followers and clients if
Yeah.
they aren't already?
Yeah, so one of the big the most valuable piece of the newsletter is that you set how often you would like to share this newsletter, and then when people subscribe, they know that, oh, there's one coming a month. But it will, once they subscribe, they're automatically notified of new content. So I think that in itself is bringing awareness. But you can link anything right within an article, similarly to how you would do like a Word document. You can, highlight and make one word clickable. So we're driving people to other assets on our website as well. And so some of those are lead capture assets where, there's a form fill, and then, we're then generating demand and capturing those leads for our demand gen team. But then we're also driving people to other educational blogs or other pages on our site that are, again, educational or inspirational, or even just like how-to things, to drive people there. So we're hoping that we can continue to link things within there. It makes it easier to include a bunch of links without directly calling it a call to action and saying like, oh, click here, oh, do this. It's like as you're reading, it catches your eye, it highlights it blue, and then you can just click through if you want to, but it's not like we're pushing anyone to do that. So I think that it's going to create some trust within our community. It's going to, and this is a cybersecurity related blog, so that's the goal, is to really create that trust and make us the top voice of conversation. But one other piece I think to keep in mind, each page on LinkedIn can only have 5 newsletters. And that essentially that's 5 series. So you could have one series that goes monthly, one series that's like daily, but you're capped at 5 newsletters total.
Awesome. Well, I am excited. By the way, Jess, tell people we had some technical problems, so Jesse's name isn't up on the screen right now, but it's Jessica Koehn. If you want to connect with her on LinkedIn, look her up. She's connected to me. You can find me. My link is in the description here, and you'll be able to find her there. And then it's on your page, so people could subscribe to the newsletter if they wanted to learn more about cybersecurity and that sort of thing. So check it out. Plus, you can see that. I love the newsletter idea because while I love email, I really do think email is a very effective marketing tool. I also know how restrictive it can be and the small percentage of people that are actually going to get it through their filters and then actually read it. I love the LinkedIn newsletter because they're getting notified. Everybody's getting notified. It's not like it just drops in the spam, when it goes live. So I'm excited to hear more about it next time I have you on.
Yep. It's all about meeting your audience where they are. So if they're already on LinkedIn, if they're already on Facebook, wherever they are, find them there. That's your.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, it is almost 12:30 and I have to run today right at 12:30. So thank you so much for coming back on again, Jess. I'm hoping to make this regular. You've got so much to offer and I really enjoyed having you on, and it's a great conversation. So thank you.
Well, I can't wait for the next opportunity to have another live conversation with you. Thanks for having me today.
Awesome. So thank you to all of you for watching and joining us today. If you have any feedback on this episode, or if there's something you want to hear us talk about in a future podcast, drop us a comment and let us know. Or if you have an experience or a skill, you're a small business owner, maybe that's been trying some things out that wants to help other small business owners, I would love to have you on. So reach out to me if you're interested in being on the podcast. And we will be back next week, Friday at noon. Next week, the topic of the podcast is going to be The Dead Web Designer. Interesting title, huh? You'll learn more about that. My business partner, Brian, is going to join me to talk about this topic that we have incurred a couple of times. So until then, I hope all of you bosses have a kick-ass weekend and a badass and productive and profitable week. And with that, I just have to tell one more funny story. Today, thank goodness I'm doing this podcast because my business partner, Brian, is at a little expo out at our local college. And I thought it was just an expo. So I gave him a bunch of stuff to bring, the collateral and promo stuff. Turns out it's a group of 8th graders who are all kind of looking at careers. But one of the things I sent him was I had these buttons made. They were my little cartoon character back when I had purple hair, and they said badass. And I got a message from Brian. He's like, the badass buttons were really popular and they've taken them all. So there's probably going to be some parents who are like, who are giving 8th graders badass buttons at the college? Sorry, but they're really cute.
Bad influence.
I know, but it made me laugh because I had plenty of them and now I don't. So good. We're just dispersing the things. Anyways, all right, everybody, have a great week. Thanks again, Jessica, and we'll see you here next Friday. Bye-bye.